Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the OK Grognard Show. It is Wednesday, August 12th, 9:55 a.m. I'm not going to change that title card. Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Beautiful. Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Campaign discussion today. Sorry for the late start. We'll be looking in the Dungeon Master's Guide at some more cool stuff in there, including special roles of NPCs and Monsters. I think that section of the campaign, as we talked about yesterday, the whole section called The Campaign. Good morning, Luxfire. Neutral Good Books. The whole section, Skull Pants, Death Angel Shadow, I guess are here too. The whole section called A Campaign. Let's see if we got it here. Right? There we go. That whole section, I wonder if we do this. There we go. It's a little better. This too. Is that what we did yesterday? Yeah, I don't remember if we did this. I don't think it matters. I don't think we want to do that anyway. Because that we can't really regulate. Outside lighting coming in. Anyway, where are we at? Let's see. There we go. Special roles, page 102 of the DMG, goes into special roles of the Dungeon Master. Now, this is the section after you discussed. Where's it at? The campaign. Here we go. This is before hiring non-player characters for cast spells or use devices, for monsters and organization, for non-human troops. This is in the non-player characters section. It's arguably the persona and facts and traits and language determination of non-player characters is world building. Those are going to be things you prep in anticipation of using them in a game, but whether they get interacted with or not, you've done that work, and that's meant to be what it is. What we have here discusses, this section discusses how they interact. So we want to talk about that in regard to the campaign, unlike the rest of that earlier part of the non-player character section, which is more world building. Thus, a Tuesday thing rather than a Wednesday thing, this being firmly in the Wednesday category. Skull and Pants, Ink Dweller. Thanks for popping by. Sorry for the late start. Special roles of the Dungeon Master. The Dungeon Master. You are, as a DM, you are game moderator, judge, jury, and supreme deity. Never liked that stuff. I'm going to review this section that sentence right here. I think there's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek effort in that sentence to let nervous presenters, nervous officiators, nervous facilitators of game worlds become a little less nervous, give them a chance to tuck some of their inhibitions aside. You're completely in charge of this, and that's how it is. No questions asked. I said so. I wrote about this game. And, you're just calling out every player with that sort of attitude to push back against it, which is problematic. You certainly don't want an adversarial relationship, although that gets joked about from time to time and I think is overblown as far as what they suggest. Gary suggests is the natural relationship. So, as a campaign tip, let's be sure to state that be a neutral arbiter, be a referee, be a referee. Referees are neutral. This is where this spawned from originally. And even though this is written 4 years after the original booklets were published, and a lot has gone under the bridge since then. A lot of games have been run. A lot of games were run in the 2 years running up to the originals being published. So it's worth stating that you should always look on the DM player relationship as non-adversarial. So this sentence obviously doesn't make sense in that light. As a DM, you are game moderator, judge, jury, okay, supreme deity. You are also actively engaged in actual role-playing throughout the course of the campaign, from game to game, as you must take on the persona of each and every henchman, hireling involved. See also Monsters hereafter. To play such roles to the hilt, it is certainly helpful to the DM if he or she has player characters of his or her own in some other campaign. He's not saying that you should be bringing them over. He is saying it's good practice. If you're going to be doing this here, you should already have some sense of how that works in other people's campaigns, so that you know what's what before you do it. Let's go to that henchman section. Regardless of their loyalty, henchmen are individuals. Play them for their liege just as if they were your player characters, modified by whatever circumstances and special characteristics are applicable. Begin creating the persona of such a non-player character as soon as he or she appears on the scene, without recourse to the book characteristics. It will thereafter become easier and more natural for you to reassume the persona as needed. The most important rule to remember is that the henchman is an individual with likes, dislikes, feelings, and so on. The henchman is likely to aspire to greater things too, and he or she will tend to look out for personal interest. Bullying, duping, cheating, and similar maltreatment will certainly be resented. The henchman will talk about it with others of his class and fellow henchmen and hirelings. Henchmen with others of his class and fellow henchmen and hirelings. Henchmen will never loan out money or valuables without security, particularly if one instance of failure to repay or loss has occurred previously. Loyalty will certainly drop in this case, and if such action is repeated, loyalty will be lost in most cases. If their liege is so bold as to suggest that the henchman should make loans to other characters, there will be flat refusal in all likelihood. The key here is playing the henchman as if he or she were an actual person, Better still, if the character is somewhat greedy and avarice, interest should be paid on loans. Use of a henchman's valuables, such as magic item, should be based on the holding of some equal or better object of similar nature, certainly one usable by the henchman, and the promise of some payment in addition, such as a minor item of magic. See also acquisition of magic user spells. Let's take a moment to address how much he discusses getting loans from your henchmen in this section here. So, we just talked about how there had been a couple of years before original D&D was published in which he was working on running games and testing the water. And then, of course, that came out in 74. And now we're going up to 79, actually 5 years, not 4, up to the publishing of this, but 4 up to the writing, and then it goes into the editing process and so on. So there's a lot of DMing between original publication and the 4 years before he finished writing this, and you have to assume in some part the things that he addresses are things he felt were important to pass along, and the things that he focuses on more heavily have to be things that come up more frequently around the tables of which he is aware, whether the ones he runs at, the one he watches other people run at, whether those are at conventions or game days, tournaments, clubs, or games that other people nearby him are running and he happens to be privy to. He'll get, of course, plenty of letters in this period. You know, the P.O. Box always said, yeah, send me a line if you want to. And people weren't shy about jotting letters off and sending off for advice and whatnot. So what you're seeing here is something that has come up, either in his own games or in games of which he was aware. And so this whole idea of getting a henchman and then forcing him to do things is important, that you don't let that happen, because henchmen wouldn't stand for it regardless of who they are. They're not there to be constantly bullied. Now, if you have a villain doing that to its henchman, that's another story. That's a sort of it's a story element that is coming to the fore. It's a characteristic. Maybe in the villain's case, the influence is just so heavy, the threat of death, the fear of abandonment. Who knows what's going on in those villains' henchmen's minds? But in the case of a henchman that's working for a player character, now they don't like the bullying, and that certainly is something you need to curtail if it comes up. You're going to lose some loyalty there. But this whole idea that henchmen get some money, you pay them. Maybe they have been around long enough and have gained some abilities, or maybe they're higher level when they come underneath the auspices of the group. But at that point, they've acquired some wealth. They've acquired some magic items, and apparently, in games of which Gary was aware, there was a lot of, hey, we're five gold short here. I want you to chip that in. I'll pay you back. Or, oh, I really want to get this staff of withering, but I'm 1,000 gold short. It'll be good for the group. You should loan me 1,000. You know, there's a lot of This is suggestion here that there was a lot of borrowing from henchmen. And that's not good, obviously. This is something, there's at least 3 or 4 sentences here out of 6 or 10 that suggest that that happened quite a bit. So, that being the case, just don't let henchmen loan out. Make them greedy and avarice. This is if it comes down to it, and that doesn't have to be, you don't have to make them greedy and avarice right out of the gate, in that you don't have to point out that they are greedy or avarice before needing to be greedy or avarice comes up. It can just come up circumstantially. The first time that comes to the fore can be when a loan is suggested, to be when money comes up as an issue. Until then, it's not important. So if players never try to put henchmen on the hook for cash, then you never have to bring it up. Red Barn, how you doing, buddy? Back in those days, didn't they codify that henchmen got 1/2 a share of the treasure? Always negotiable. But there were certain, and that's something that we'll get into in another section. But to continue on this one, but always negotiable, for sure. Some few players will actually play their henchmen as individual characters, not merely as convenient extensions of their main character. In these rare cases, your involvement with these henchmen will be minimal. It is far more probable that the players will attempt to manipulate their henchmen, and you will counter all such attempts by active assumption of the role or roles. You will keep low intelligent characters behaving accordingly, clever ones possibly tricking their master, and so on. So there you go. If they're constantly, we got a box, we don't know if there's any traps on it, we have no way of checking. Hey, Bill, just pop open that box real quick, would you? Because we want to see what's inside of it. Well, okay, boss. There you go. Kaboom. We're just going to back off a little, Bill, before you open it. So hang on a tick there. So, low intelligence. Maybe you start using them like they're trap triggering chickens. We were talking about that the other day. People always, back in the day, the occasional clever move, you'll see this at conventions, is to get yourself a bag of marbles, a sack of flour, and a live chicken. Throw ahead of you in a hallway where you think there's a trap, whether it's a pit or whatever. And sometimes henchmen can get used that way. But if you've hired some people on or attracted some henchmen, and you keep going to the dungeon and come back to town with blood on your hands and no henchmen, people are going to stop being loyal to you. People are not going to continue to want to be in your service if you are. So you have to keep this in mind when you're DMing. Hirelings. As these characters are served strictly as employees, they should be played as such. Mercenaries interested in doing a job and collecting their pay. Unusual indeed will be circumstances which see a hireling volunteering for extra work or service. Rather, a hireling seeks to do only as much as is absolutely minimal to fulfill terms of employment. If more is desired, more must be offered. Playing such roles is relatively easy, and if groups are involved, concentrate on the persona of the leaders. Otherwise, hirelings can be treated as henchmen as far as involvement is concerned. There you go. Now, you paying me to hold this torch and walk in the middle of the group, going up and opening that box. Not interested. How dangerous is it? I don't know. Give me 10 gold. I'll go open that box for you right now. Maybe they come cheap. Maybe they want to share what's in the box, but that's no guarantee. 10 gold is a lot for a hireling. You might get one that's a little cash poor. After all, they're hiring themselves out to do work rather than working on the farm or in the business back in town, so they see this as a way of gaining some money. They must need money, so keep that in mind. Hirelings once hired are people that have showed themselves as people that will do work for money. It's just a matter of gauging how important the work is to the players, how much the hireling is capable of gauging that, and then whether or not the hireling is going to take advantage of that and get themselves a little extra when a little extra work becomes worth doing. What about monsters? Taking the role of some of the monsters, those who happen to be human or humanoid, is not a difficult task for the DM, but sometimes it is hard to get into the persona of particularly nauseating creatures or minions of purity or whatever. Such creatures might be well beyond the realm of experience of the referee, and understandably so. Is he saying we're not beings of minions of purity? Or is he saying we're at least not particularly nauseating? I think probably both. Nonetheless, such monsters must be carefully played by the DM. Each and every monster must be played as closely to its stated characteristics as possible. Clever ones should be played with cleverness, stupid ones with stupidity, ferocious ones with ferocity, cowardly ones with cowardice, and so on. In all cases, the DM is absolutely obligated to play the monster in question to the best of his or her ability according to the characteristics of the monster and the circumstances of the encounter. A magic-using creature will intelligently select the best, or what the creature believes to be the best, spell or magic device for attack, defense. Intelligent monsters will make use of magic items in their treasure hoard! Exclamation points. Rings of protection shouldn't just be laying around. If there's a ring to be worn, I mean, it's possible they don't know what it is, and it's possible they're afraid to wear it, but they don't even know it's magic necessarily, right? So why not wear a ring? They might not want to lose it. They might not want to gollum it up in the tunnel somewhere when fighting goblins. Thinking monsters will tend to flee from encounters which are going badly in order to live and fight another day. There is no reason why monsters cannot learn from encounters, employ flaming oil, set up ambushes, and so forth, according to their capabilities and resources. Well, this indeed happened within a year of our first games in 74 with kobolds, and everybody's heard stories about kobolds becoming smart enough to use tactics. Hey, Bill, open the box and have your D20 handy. Right? Saving throw time. In the words of the most famous hireling, Nodwick. Yep, there you go. Good old Nodwick. Negotiation could impact desire and loyalty on the part of the henchman. Definitely. All good points, fellas. Definitely good points. Sorry, I didn't spot them right away, and we're talking about monsters now, but monsters 2 learn from things. As I say, the kobolds in the kobolds, or were they goblins? In original D&D game that we were playing back in the day, after we used flaming oil on them for a while to eradicate them from certain sections of the first level of the dungeon, and we were starting to move through and go down to second and third level, we'd go down the first stairs of the dungeon. We'd say, yep, we're going this way. We're going left at this thing. We're going right at this thing. We're getting to that stairway. We're going down to level 2. And then we're going across this bridge, down this long way to the east till we find that other staircase. And we're going down to level 3. And from there, we have to figure it out. Because we'd been exploring this dungeon. We knew the ways down, but we'd forgotten some of these creatures can bounce back. And I think when we got to the bridge, we were trapped out on the bridge and flaming oil was being thrown at us. The bridge had been wet, which we kind of didn't really notice. Next thing you know, we're rolling up new characters. And the corpses, our charred remains, are down in the chasm. So that just goes to show you. Other non-player characters. How much more do we have here? I think just that section, huh? Oh no, there's more up here. I tell you what. We're going to get into these guys next time because there's a lot more to it. And we're running up on the half hour. And I want to close out because we already started late. And we don't want to run long on top of that. So let's just say this. Let us say thank you to everybody who showed up today. Thank you for your forbearance on coming late. Thank you for following the channel. And as always, if you're following the channel, be sure to chime in on the stream chat during the show because that gets you in on the list, the We Know You're Not a Robot list that we keep track of every week. Grail Knight, there you are. How you doing? We got Grail Knight, Lexfire 22. We've got Skull and Pants and Ink Dweller 8. We've got Red Barn Games. And we've got NutriGood Books. All in the chat today, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Always good to be on that list. If you're picking up on what we're throwing down over on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Let us know how we're doing. And had to make a coffee run. Grail Knight nicely. Feel free to, on YouTube, feel free to give us a comment, constructive criticism. Never hurts. We'd appreciate it. It's easy enough to delete the particularly nasty ones. We've had to do it once or twice and ban one or two weirdos. Since we started, often it's people that are just unrelated to gaming that are looking to jump up and down and say go to my channel somewhere else on YouTube. So we ignore them. But thank you very much. We appreciate all the support. We hope that you'll join us again every day here at 9:30 a.m. from beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Bye-bye.